getting towards tax time, as obviously we are into a new year. That's creating a lot of situation for those who are working from home, especially when it comes to taxation and such. But not only that, as we slowly start to transition back to being in the office, and for us, it's not going to be for a while yet. What are our rights when it comes to working from home? Can you decide when you go back or if you want to go back? How do you make those sorts of decisions, and what is the template moving forward? To talk more about all of this, let's bring in employment lawyer Mackenzie Irwin, associate at Samfiru Tumarkin LLP, and is with us now. Mackenzie, thank you for the time. I hope you're well.
Hi, yes, Scott. Thank you so much for having me.
So this has created a completely different environment for anyone, or for a lot of people, rather. What are some of the concerns dealing with this year of working from home?
Yeah, well, I mean, the main point here, Scott, is really that your employees have very similar rights, whether they're working from home or whether they're working from the office. So I think the number one, it's been a turmoil of a year for employers, because employers really need to update all of their policies to ensure that they're keeping all their employees safe and maintaining all their employees' rights while they are working from home.
So obviously, there's a lot of some people are fatigued; they want to go back right now. Other people say, no, I don't care. I don't want to go back at all. So if you can do your job from home, would there be or could there be those that say, I'm too scared. I don't want to go back. What are their rights?
Yeah. So with this new government regulation, with the recent state of emergency, that new government regulation actually states that, if it's possible for your employees to do their work from home, employers must allow them to work from home. Now, I know, the state of emergency is in flux at the moment, so we're not sure whether or not, as of today, that regulation is going to be changed. But, over the past couple of weeks, it has been the case where if it's possible to do your work from home, employers must permit their employees to do that work from home.
And we should reiterate that the Premier announced earlier on that he is going to let the emergency order lapse as of tomorrow. So it's just the stay-at-home orders, not the state of emergency. What about changes in pay? Can an employer say, well, you don't have to come in now, you don't have to do this, so we're not going to pay you as much?
No, certainly. I mean, any kind of changes in pay, you've got to be really careful there, because depending on the extremity of the change in your pay, whether it's a significant reduction in your pay, that could be grounds for what we call a constructive dismissal, in which case those employees that are getting a significant reduction in pay, they might be able to be in a position to consider their employment to be terminated and pursue their severance entitlements.
So what about, if the company's feeling the pinch? I mean, there's lots of companies that aren't generating what they were, so therefore I guess can't pay what they were. Very much like a financial situation when a company says, I got to let go so many employees because we're just not making what we were before. How does that come into play here?
Yeah, so I mean, an employer's financial situation doesn't really change that employee's rights upon termination. So if the employer, if it's simply a matter of the employer not being able to afford to continue certain employees' employment, that employer needs to make the decision to actually terminate the employment, and which would trigger the employee's rights to severance. Employers don't have the power to just unilaterally reduce your pay. And I must preface that by saying, a significant reduction in pay. So it's really going to come down to the facts of each individual employee's situation, but a significant reduction in your pay can result in a constructive dismissal.
We've talked many times on this show about, everybody talking about getting back to normal. Then we all realize after a year, the normal will be a lot different than it was going out of this than it was getting into it. how do you think this is changing or will change the workplace moving forward? I mean, some are saying you won't need the office space if more working from home, more remote working and such. How is this going to change the landscape of employment?
Oh, I think it's undeniable. Scott, there's going to be a significant change in what all employers are going to sit back and kind of have to reevaluate whether or not they need that office space and whether or not it's more effective to have their workforce working from home. But in terms of whether, if an employer does choose to have the majority of their workplace work from home, they're going to need to reevaluate all of their policies because they still have that obligation to provide, a safe and healthy work environment, to ensure that their employees are working free from harassment or any kind of discrimination. All of those obligations still apply to their workforce, whether they're working from the office or from home. So, a lot of employers are going to have to reevaluate all of those policies to make sure that they're still, in touch with their employees from home, and they still have the ability to provide them with what they need from home.
What about, on that note, what about equipment? Obviously I'm broadcasting my show from home, so I've got a special piece here that is theirs that allows me to do this. But the rest of the stuff, it's my computer, it's my this, my that. If people have their own home offices and doing, things from there, whether it's, this, that, or the other, or printing or some sort of presentation that's involved in that, at what point does it become the company's responsibility as opposed to the employee's responsibility? Obviously it costs a lot to manage an office and supply an office.
Certainly, yeah. It is the employer's obligation to make sure that their employees have all of the equipment that they need in order to perform their work from home. It's going to be kind of a case-by-case basis. So obviously a small employer with a small budget, it's going to be a lot more difficult for them to provide certain tools, for example, in order to facilitate the employee working from home. So all of that might be a situation where that employer has to have, when things are safe and reopen, is going to recall their workforce back to work because it's more cost effective to have them all working using the same devices from the office. But that's something that we're going to have to reevaluate once things are totally open back up and we're all able to return to the office.
What about taxation and tax write-offs? Obviously, we're hearing reports this is going to cost the government a lot as people write their stuff off at home.
Certainly, yeah. I'm not a tax lawyer, so I can't really give you any tax advice, but there's definitely going to be a lot of people are going to want to check out the new tax situations and what can and cannot be written off in terms of working from home tools and things that have helped everyone transition to a work from home workforce.
Employment lawyer Mackenzie Irwin has been with us, associate at Samfiru Tumarkin LLP, talking about working from home, what your rights are, and what we do with this moving forward. How much of this will become the new norm? Mackenzie, thanks so much for the time and insight. Much appreciated. Be well.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.